Well, happy November! Can you believe it? Weren't we just talking about our New Year's resolutions? It seems. Well, welcome to the season of gratitude and Thanksgiving. And this month we're going to be exploring the universal quality of kindness. The universal quality of kindness. We usually talk about gratitude, and we will talk about gratitude this month, but we're going to have an overarching theme. And it is kindness, and the Dalai Lama says that out of kindness flow so many other positive qualities. So we're going to be looking at kindness and then many of these positive qualities that he talks about that flow forth from that. Our theme for the month is the power of kindness, and it's loosely based on the book by Piero Ferrucci, and it's called The Power of Kindness, his book is. And it's just a series of stories, if you will, about how kindness operates in the world. So we're going to be looking all month at honesty, mindfulness, gratitude, and grateful. Those will be our four overarching underlying topics that we'll be talking about. Today, our talk is sugar and spice and everything nice. You ever heard that? Sugar and spice and everything nice. It was a nursery rhyme, right? Many of us grew up hearing that. Of course, it's what are little boys made of? Snips and snails and puppy dog tails. That's what little boys are made of. But what about little girls? What are little girls made of? Sugar and spice and everything nice. That's what little girls are made of. And if you haven't heard the nursery rhyme, you may have heard that theme in music. Back in the 60s, Sam Cooke, the Searchers, in the 90s, Van Halen used that reference of sugar and spice in their songs. And then television has used it also. Star Trek had an episode titled What Little Girls Are Made Of. Cartoon Network. Remember Powerpuff Girls? Weren't they the ones with the really big heads and the really big eyes? Yeah, that was all based on that whole idea. And it was used in the 1986 film Labyrinth. And there was the whole basis of My Little Pony. Anybody remember My Little Pony? Yeah, all those old shows. Today, it's completely politically incorrect, isn't it? What? There's so much more than that. Girls can do anything. We're all about STEM stuff and engineering and all that good stuff now, right? We play football and soccer and all sorts of things. But yet, it's part of our culture. I saw the smiles, I saw the nods when I first started talking about it. It's something that we share culturally. So as we look at that, my question for us today is, are being nice and kindness the same thing? Are those the same thing? And on the surface, they might appear to be. But it is said generally that being nice is an external quality of our personality. Being nice is an external quality of our personality, whereas kindness comes from the heart. Kindness comes from the heart. It's suggested that it's far easier to be nice than to be kind. Now, many of us were raised with the idea of being nice, being polite, having manners, right? Sure, smile, be nice to them. But kindness, again, comes from the heart and is something that we are. It's something that we are, not necessarily something that we do, if you can get that distinction. Nice can be a social grace, etiquette, diplomacy, manners. Anybody remember home economics class? Oh yeah, they tried to teach us that stuff in home economics, didn't they? Yeah, they did. But kindness is a way of being of the heart. Kindness is a way of being of the heart. And I think Mother Teresa is a very good example of when you see an image of kindness that she might pop to mind. The author of the book that I was referring to, Piero Ferrucci, he tells the story of Albert Schweitzer, and that he was attending a royal banquet in Norway with the Queen and everybody. He had just won the Nobel Prize for Peace. So he's kind of a big deal. And he's sitting at this very high table with the Queen and everyone. And he's in Norway, and they present him with a plate of herring. He detests herring. So now he's sitting there going, what do I do? What do I do with this herring in front of me? I don't want to, offend the Queen. So when the Queen's not looking, he takes it and he sticks it in his jacket pocket. Now he walks around all night with herring in his jacket pocket. Can you imagine? I can't imagine. Cannot imagine. So the story illustrates the paradox that we can sometimes get ourselves into, that we sometimes face when we're looking at the differences in kindness, nice, and honesty. So in his situation, was he being honest and hiding the food? Well, he probably wasn't being honest with the queen. Do you think it was an act of kindness for her to not embarrass her or not embarrass himself? Perhaps. Was he simply being nice? Was he afraid? Was he afraid of getting himself to be embarrassed? What would you do in that situation? What would you do in that situation? What have you done in similar situations? So the question is, can honesty and kindness coexist? Can honesty and kindness coexist? Let's talk about another, probably more relevant to all of us, example. You're having lunch with a friend or client, and they have spinach between their front teeth. Do you tell them? Do you always tell them? Yes, I'm saying yes, and I'm saying, it depends on the client, right? Maybe they'll check when they get in the car, and I won't have to have this embarrassing moment, right? Or the person that walks out of the restroom with toilet paper on their shoe. Do you tell them? Yes? Or do you think maybe someone else, or they'll discover it on their own? You know, those can feel like embarrassing moments to point out things like that to people, can't it? But are we really being kind by not pointing it out and letting them run around like that? Many of you have experienced my tucking your tags. It's like, I'd like you to tuck my tag if it's sticking out, so if I see yours, I'll tuck your tag, right? Yeah. So that's the idea of kindness and honesty. We're being honest, we're helping that person, and we're being kind to them in that same moment. I know these are silly examples, but they do happen to us all the time, don't they? We have these experiences all the time where, I've come out of lunches and things and gotten in the car and gone, oh gosh, I didn't tell me. So, it happens on both sides of the coin. Gentlemen, maybe even this morning, have you ever had the question, does this outfit make me look fat? What do you say? Are you kind? Are you honest? Are you something else? What do you do with that question? It's a no-win, right? You're all going, I can't win at this. I cannot win at this answer. But Chris says it goes in one and out the other. So what do we do with those types of questions that we're faced with all the time? I was reminded as I was going through this work this week and putting it together of Dante's Divine Comedy. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he's describing the hypocrites in hell. He's describing the hypocrites in hell and how they were forced to wear a lead cape. Very heavy, very cumbersome, very difficult to move around in. But the exterior of it was gold. The exterior was gold. So it was very beautiful, even though it was very difficult for them to walk around in. And it's a good metaphor for the idea of hypocrisy. Looks good on the outside, but it's false on the inside. And that's sort of the same idea between this potential of being nice and being kind. False kindness can look like we're being nice, but sometimes comes from a place of fear. Being nice can sometimes come from a place of fear. Fear of not being accepted. If I tell them they've got stuff in their teeth, they might not like me anymore. Right? A fear of being accepted. It can come from a fear of being rejected. It can come, if anybody know anybody that's a people pleaser, that just wants to make sure the other person's happy, avoiding conflict and that sort of thing. It can come from that standpoint as well. So if we're always stuffing our feelings and not expressing them, which is what they're defining nice as, then that can create the stress and anxiety in us because we've got a lid on our true feelings. And then that can manifest even as health challenges, can it? It can even manifest as health challenges if we're suppressing ourselves. Tuesday's what? Election day, right? So lots of politics in the news this week, politicians in the news this week. And I been watching them from this perspective, and I'm always fascinated when they're asked a direct question by an interviewer. And rather than answering that direct question directly, they're walking around over here someplace, and there's almost a sense of they're stuffing their true feelings and not expressing that because of what they're trying to stand for in their political career. So it was very interesting to watch several of those debates. I've been watching them on YouTube and stuff to kind of catch up for voting. But it was just really interesting to question whether those responses were their true responses or if they were trying to stuff some feelings there. Science of mind teaches us to focus on what we want to experience. Focus on what we want to experience rather than an unpleasant effect that we may find ourselves in. You've heard that, right? What we focus on expands. And that's part of the basis of our teaching. But I am frequently asked, but aren't we lying to ourselves if we do that? Aren't we just avoiding reality when we do that? And I say not at all. Not at all. Webster says that reality is defined as the state of things as they actually exist. The state of things as they actually exist. Science of mind says reality is the unchanging and everlasting. It's another name for God. The unchanging and everlasting. So when we are saying turn away from that which we do not want to experience and focus on that which we do want to experience, what we're saying is don't put your energy on the unpleasant effect that has come forward that we're dealing with. Put your energy on that which we want to see more of, activating the law of attraction and pulling that into our experience. When we focus on what we don't want, our energy goes there. And we know that negative energy is just as powerful of a manifester as positive energy, right? Because it's the emotion, it's the belief behind it. So if we're really, really upset about this thing and we're putting all of our energy on the upset, that's what we're getting more of. That's what we're getting more of. We go on to say in Science of Mind, we believe too that God is all there is, then it doesn't know anything unlike itself, so therefore cannot know the unpleasant condition that we find ourselves in. Spirit is, get a bigger God, so to speak. God doesn't know any of the unpleasantness. We do. We have that experience. So turning our attention to that which we seek to experience is finding ourselves in that positive and affirmative place of spirit. Ernest Holmes in Creative Mind. Ernest Holmes is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living and author of The Science of Mind. He says when we look into the creative way of the spirit, we find it impossible for denial to enter, as the spirit recognizes no opposite to its own nature. Those of you who have studied the affirmative prayer treatment, we have two methods of treatment that we teach. The first being that of denial. We deny the condition, and then we focus on what it is, the realization that we want to achieve. And Holmes is advising us, don't get stuck in the denials, because we're putting too much energy in the denial. So he moves us into the realization, which is the method that we most often practice, to be able to step ourselves into accepting and receiving that which it is that we are seeking to bring forward in our lives. He says the spirit does not deny anything. It simply affirms itself to be that which it desires to be. So there's a slight subtle difference in there in focusing on only the affirmative, affirming only what it is that we're seeking to bring forward, versus any energy whatsoever on that which we don't want to have brought forward more in our lives. So there's a subtle difference there, and it's really easy for us to get caught in the what-isness. It's easy to get caught in the what-isness. I think we've all had that experience. I know I have, where I've gotten caught in the what-isness, stuck in it, focused on it, complain about it, whine about it, oh my gosh, and it just continues to get bigger. Anybody eat sushi? Yeah, octopus. It just keeps getting bigger. I had sushi once. I don't like twice. I don't like sushi, but I did have octopus, and it just seemed to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It was like bubble gum. It wouldn't go away. So it's this idea of what we focus on expands, negative or positive. negative or positive. Money Finders program. You hear me talk about that every Sunday. And that's exactly what the whole concept of this program is focusing on not the lack in our paycheck. It's not big enough, it's not frequent enough, it's not whatever enough. We don't focus on that. We focus on what else is coming in. We focus on the other good that's coming in, that comes to us. And I know we all have good that comes to us that's unexpected each and every week. If we simply but focus on that, and then we'll begin to see more of it. That's the whole basis of that. We then anchor that in blessing it and circulating a portion of it through the community. An important truth to be aware of, as we were saying, is that this idea of focusing on the negative. We have wars on everything, don't we? We have wars on drugs. We have wars on diseases. We have wars on guns. We have wars on everything that are going on. And it seems the more that we put our energy on the war against, the bigger that thing gets, the more prominent it gets. So just a reminder to make sure that when you're in those realms of focusing on those things, that you also do an equal amount or more of focusing on what it is that we truly want to experience, which is more peace, more harmony, more love, more expansion, more mental and physical health, right? It even feels better to say that we're focusing on more peace as opposed to a war on guns. So focusing our energy is how we can change and create a world that works for all. Sounds really simple, doesn't it? Yeah, but it's not. We know it's not, because the world of effects hooks us. Stuff gets in our face all the time. News headlines, conversations, people, events, situations, diseases, whatever it might be. When something's knocking on our heads 24/7 to get our attention, it's hard not to give it to it. So what happens when this occurs is we seek spiritual help. We have practitioners and ministers. We have prayer partners and spiritual partners in our community that you can talk to. I call my ministers and practitioners all the time when things are going on. Like, I can't see this. It's too in my face. Talk me through this. Help me find the possibility in the seemingly impossible situation that I'm dealing with right now. And that helps. It helps to change the perspective because they're not getting banged on the head with it. So they've got a fully clear perspective of it, right? It's very easy for them to see and know the truth and to share that, and for me to hear words of encouragement and empowerment and to see it from a different perspective. And we all have that opportunity to us in our beautiful prayer practitioners here and each other in the community and other prayer practitioners throughout our organization. CentersForSpiritualLiving.org, you can go on there and find a whole list of practitioners and ministers. World Ministry of Prayer. There's a lot of opportunities to support us. A lot of opportunities to support us when life gets our attention in a negative way. So ultimately, practicing the focus on what we want instead principle helps us to step into the idea of truth and honesty in our own lives. Because really, I don't think any of us wants to be stuck in the effects that are unpleasant, do we? I mean, we really don't. The truth, being honest with ourselves, I really would rather have that. I really would rather have the good. I really would rather have the polar opposite of this stuff that I'm dealing with. So practicing that is an act of kindness, self-kindness, and honesty with ourselves. The trick, though, is to stay focused on our own stuff, right? On our own stuff. So honesty is one of those positive qualities that the Dalai Lama was talking about that emerges from kindness. And I believe that it is kind to tell someone they've got spinach in their teeth. I believe that it is kind to be able to learn compassion, communication skills, all of that, to be able to say in a loving way, "Sweetie, you got spinach in your teeth," or, "You know, I'm really not comfortable with that," or, "I really like this," whatever that might be. But to find our words and to find our ability in that, to allow Spirit to work in our lives. Because really, when we get in the way is when things don't go our way, don't they? When we can get out of the way and let God be God through us, as us, listening to the divine wisdom and intelligence within us, our life seems to flow better. It's when we get in the middle of it. So let's look at some ways that we can practice our principles this week. Don't walk around with a herring in your pocket. Next time you're facing a situation and feel like putting that herring in your pocket, check out what the fear might be. Ask yourself some questions. What's going on here? Why am I wanting to dodge this? What's going on here? Is it a fear of being embarrassed or embarrassing the other person? Is it a fear of not being accepted or being rejected in some way? Or do I just simply need to please and not have that uncomfortable conversation? Are we hiding a weakness, or do we want to not want to give explanation? In the book, the guy gives an example of his kids actually it was his wife. They went on a train, and they got to the train station a little bit late. So he avoided going to the ticket station, and he just ran in and got on the train, and the conductor came up, and he says, "Tickets, please." And he says, "Oh, well, we got here late. We didn't have time to get tickets." And she went, "That's not true. We were here plenty of times to get the tickets. You just chose not to." And he just kind of went under the seat. But that's the kind of thing, right? It was just easier to just say that and not tell the conductor that I was lazy and didn't go to the ticket counter. I'd like to buy my tickets here. There's nothing wrong with buying the tickets on the train. But he felt compelled to do that, and his wife felt compelled to speak the truth. So it's just an interesting example of the way that we can respond by human nature to various situations. So they're good check-in questions, and if you do discover today that you might have a herring in your pocket, already, then pray for the wisdom to clean that up. To let that go, to let Spirit move through you for the perfect right words to clean that up. Because it's much better to do that for short-term embarrassment than to carry that stench of that stinky fish in your consciousness for a long time. Number 2, am I being kind or nice? Genuine kindness is an act of being, and our actions then flow from our heart. Nice can be superficial, and our bodies know it, don't they? Our hands might shake or get sweaty. Our voices might shake. We might have butterflies in our stomach, pain in our shoulders. But when we listen to our bodies will tell us. We may even have that small voice in our head saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Right? So listening to our bodies is another way that we can become more aware of our soul's journey and paying attention to that. And number 3, our daily spiritual practice. We all have available to us now a gratitude journal for this to add to our spiritual practice. And it's a good season to do this. It's the ending of the year. We're completing yet another year in our lives. It's the month of November where we really focus on gratitude and thanksgiving. And gratitude practice is a way of acknowledging the good that has come to us. We're going to spend 40 days doing this. And I invite you this week to focus your gratitude practice on recognizing kindness, where you've received it and where you've given it. That wonderful cycle of giving and receiving, but recognizing that and writing those down. I think there's 10 things per day of noticing kindness in your life. So good practice for the week. So I want to close with a quote this morning from that Nobel Prize Peace winner with the herring in his pocket, Mr. Albert Schweitzer. He says that constant kindness can accomplish much. As the sun makes ice melt, kindness causes misunderstanding, mistrust, and hostility to evaporate. So may you experience kindness in all areas of your life this week. Thank you for being with us. If you were with us for the very first time, we're delighted that you chose to come to our community this morning. We really appreciate you taking the time to do so. And everyone else that are the regulars, thank you for coming this morning as well and starting off our beautiful month of November. And at this time, I'd like to invite you to join me for an affirmative prayer as we close out. So how good it is that we come together in community this morning, and recognizing that there is only that one power and presence, that one life, the one mind of God, that affirmative beingness of good. It is infinite intelligence and wisdom. It is harmony and peace and compassion. It is kindness. And it is life itself expressing. And I know that all of that is here now in this room, in, through, and as me as an expression of it. For I am that harmony, that balance, that love, that joy, peace. I am the wisdom and the intelligence. And as I know this for myself, I know it for each and every one of us here this day. For we are all one in the one as the one, in full form and expression. In this time-space reality, in this now moment, come together by divine appointment in this day, in this space, right now. Right now. And as I know that unity for each of us, that oneness, that wholeness in which we live, move, and have our being and existence, I speak the word for each of us, knowing that this week we are kindness in each and every interaction that we experience, in each and every person that we meet. We are kindness. We are that peace. We know love. We know harmony. We know the divine law of order in, through, and as all that occurs in our lives. And I know for our upcoming election, the wholeness of this process, that it is peace-filled, and that no matter which side of the aisle we are on, we know that the higher ideal is balance and harmony and divinity and wholeness and order. So for anyone that has anything on their heart this day for which they are seeking clarity or healing or truth or love or peace or whatever it might be, whatever the need is, as that desire is lifted into their awareness this morning, I know that whatever the need is, it is fulfilled here and now. Knowing that Spirit is in this place and is in this individual, and that it is done to us as we believe. And I believe in the healing. I believe in the prosperity. I believe in the flow. I believe in the joy and the love. For it is all here now present. So with a grateful heart, I release this into the activity of mind, into the action of law, knowing that it is already activated in the universal consciousness. It is already being brought forward in this moment. We are so blessed. And so it is.